Hello and welcome back to episode 3 of A Wee Chat. We're back again for some more Norwich City podcasting goodness. I'm joined once again with Seb Ward and Charlie Hatch, as always. Guys, how are you?
Yeah, very good.
Charlie?
Living life to the fullest.
Oh, that's inspirational. That's deep. A deep start to this podcast. Nice stuff. Anyway, we're off the back of a fantastic result against Arsenal last Sunday, and we're going into a big game against Watford. So there's a lot to discuss in this episode. Anyway, first of all, let's take it back to Sunday where we saw Lewis Grabban not celebrating his goal, but he did score, so that's cool. Seb, what do you make of the weekend's game?
Yeah, I mean, the end result is a really important point for us. I think we did really well. Once we'd sort of started to attack them a bit more after the first 30 minutes, we really started to show what we can do in this league. And of course, there were problems at the back. Again, Ruddy making a mistake, kicking the ball along the ground, but of course, Olsen also passed it back to him on his left foot, so there's that as well. It was a bit frustrating that we gifted them the goal, but then we reacted really well from that, and that showing of character is something that is going to be crucial throughout the season. And in the end, we were very worthy of our point, and in fact, I was a tad disappointed we didn't take all three.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get on to Ruddy and sort of Olsen later, but Charlie, what was your overall thoughts on what was a pretty decent point against a very strong Arsenal team?
No, yeah, I was pleased. I think immediately seeing the lineup, I was a little hesitant because I don't want to say it was a championship side, but it's not our full strength roster. I mean, Gary O'Neill, who's been a boss recently, Grabban, of course, was back in. No Malumbu. I was hesitant. Started playing. I thought we looked good, other than the one mishap, obviously. And to get a goal and to hang on, I thought was crucial. I thought if we could get to halftime tied, maybe something would happen. Second half looked good. I think actually there was the one stretch of time when Alexis Sanchez was hurt, and Redmond came on. It's like 6 or 7 minutes. I think we should have scored there, but from that point on, I mean, a draw was nice.
Yeah, Seb, it's obviously pleasing to come out of a game against Arsenal, and the only regret you have is not coming away with the 3 points. But could we have gone on to pick up the 3 points? I mean, I can remember a few chances that we missed, certainly, which we probably should have scored.
Yeah, we did have some good chances. There's that the Houlihan header, which Czech made a really good save from. I think Howson had a bit of an overhead hook from a corner, which we nearly scored again from. I think we've scored.
That would have been disallowed anyway.
Well, possibly, yeah. We have scored, I think, 5 goals from corners this season, which is the most in the league. So we nearly profited again there.
Well, we have 5 goals in the already.
I think so.
That's surprising.
Really?
I think so. I think that's what I heard on Match of the Day. But what was, the big golden chance was straight after we scored. Wisdom whipped in a great ball, and if Houlihan was, a few inches taller, he might have got his left boot over that ball a bit more and tapped it into Czech's net. But scoring before half-time was crucial. I just think, given the fact that we gifted them such a goal in the manner that we did, and they didn't really pose that much of a threat. I thought we did pretty well otherwise. And that's why I'm left sort of frustrated we didn't get 3 points. Not only because we had some great chances at the other end, but the chance that we gave and that they took was a major mistake from Ruddy. Not only from the clearance, which on his left foot was it looked too casual. It looked he didn't hit it with enough conviction, and he hit it straight down the middle, which is that's. If you're a bit dodgy, just hit it out wide and there's less of a risk.
I was just going to say, did you notice even Olsen passing it back? At the time, I was like, what is he doing? Like
I mean, there was no pressure on the ball. He didn't need to pass it back to Ruddy on his left foot.
I think the fact that we are talking about Olsen shouldn't have been passing it back to Ruddy's left foot. I mean, he's a professional footballer. I mean, I can't use my left foot, but I don't practice every day. I think I'm not going to blame Olsen for passing it to his wrong foot, and I'm not going to blame Ruddy's kick either. But yeah, it was pretty sloppy.
What I do think was there's a second mistake in there actually. When Ruddy comes rushing out, he shouldn't.
Yeah.
Because Basong, although he's not up, he's not right next to Ozil. I think he would have done enough to push Ozil out wide, and the chance would have been much harder to score. Instead, Ruddy comes rushing out, and a player of Ozil's quality can so easily just master that chip over the top. And we've seen it so often at Carrow Road. We've seen Aguero do it. I think we've seen Dzeko do it. We see these top-class strikers, and it seems that Ruddy is very liable to that chip. And again, I think he made it easy for Ozil by coming out so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm no goalkeeping coach, but even the way he sort of dived to the ground, he only sort of left his left arm in the air. His sort of body was completely on the ground, which just makes the goal so big. And as you said, a player like Ozil just isn't going to miss them opportunities. But Ruddy puts, I think it was O'Neill, wasn't it, who made the poor touch in the middle of the park.
Yeah, which was
he puts O'Neill under such a tough position there, because he just nails it at him. And obviously that wasn't the intended pass, but O'Neill literally, he can't kick it out, he can't sort of pass it back. He tried his best, it didn't come off, and we're suddenly a goal down.
The thing is that if Ruddy had made this mistake in isolation and hadn't been sort of on this patchy form that he has been, I don't think we'd debate it too much. We'd just hold our hands up like we did with Forster that time that he smashed it down along the floor and Leeds scored that. I think it was a 93rd minute winner back in the Championship in like 2010 possibly.
Yeah.
But because Ruddy, he didn't look good all game. I think there was several other opportunities where he went to claim the ball above his head or just didn't really dominate his box. And for Ruddy, who is such a bulky keeper, that sort of dictates his style as a goalkeeper. He has to be dominating his box because he's not going to be the agile, quick off his line sort of player that you might get from Declan Rudder, or a smaller, maybe slighter, more athletic keeper. So if he's not dominating his box, and that being one of his main traits that we expect from him, we're not getting the best out of him by any means. And unfortunately, we by no means have seen the best of Ruddy this season.
No, definitely. I think I'm just a bit wary of being too critical on Ruddy for this game. I thought he was excellent. Well, I say excellent. He didn't have much to do against Swansea, but he kept a clean sheet. He was fantastic away at Chelsea. And even against Arsenal, he made that one error, and we were lucky not to concede more goals. I think at least he was trying to command his box. In previous games, he has been rooted to his goal line. He won't move. The West Brom goal that we conceded sort of rings out loud to me. But he was trying to come out and command his box. Admittedly, he did nearly knock out Basong trying to punch the ball. But, I think we've got to give Ruddy a bit more time. We haven't got much backup. I mean, we've got Declan Ruddy, who's a fantastic goalkeeper, but you go below him.
Did you see Keane's mistake?
Yeah, Keane's mistake.
We must have the weirdest record of signing third choice goalkeepers. We've had Carlo Nash, was Mark Bunn a third choice?
Yeah,
probably. Who was the other guy? The guy who made one substitute appearance.
Lee Camp.
We had him.
Yes.
Just such odd.
Or what about Jed Steer?
I actually rated Jed Steer.
We got decent money for him in the end. I think we got 1.52 million because there was that whole court case, wasn't there?
Yeah, and he was a midget as well, so that's not too bad. But yeah, we do have a really odd third choice goalkeepers. And also we going back to that chance that Seb, you were talking about, the Houlihan miss, not the header, the other one. I was really close to that because I sit front row of the Barclays, so I can sort of hear what the players are saying. And I was positive that Houlihan shouted to Grabban, who was the player in front of him, to leave that ball. Now, if I was Grabban, and I think if Grabban had played more consistently this season and was more switched on, he would have gone for that, because it was definitely his chance to finish, not Wes's. And yeah, the communication sort of let us down on that point there. But Charlie, I mean, Arsenal, I think they've scored 11 goals against us in the past 3 seasons. 10 of them have come in the second half. How good was our defence to keep Arsenal at bay in that second half when they were really sort of throwing the kitchen sink at us?
No, it was good. I mean, towards the end, I think it was weird because at the beginning of extra time, it looked like Norwich should have scored, and then as it ended, it was vice versa. I think Basong, to be honest, hasn't done anything to merit any negativity. He's been all right. It's been consistent. I think Bennett has been good as well, other than his mistake at City.
Yeah.
And then I'm one of those few people out there that openly admit I like Steven Whittaker.
Yeah.
But Wisdom has done a good job. He's come in, he moves up the field well, which is the one negative thing that I have against Russell Martin when he's back. And then, Martin Olsen was consistent even when Brady was back there. I will say, I honestly think the back line isn't as much of a problem now as it was maybe a month or two ago. Like, if I watch a match, I don't immediately think if the back line was better. Like, obviously that crossed your mind, but now I push more emphasis on the forwards than
of course
wondering who's going to be lining up next to Bassam.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you've raised there, actually. I read the EDP today, and one of the points that Michael Bailey raised that, as you said, Charlie, the defence isn't that weak anymore, but if you get an injury or a suspension in there, which is pretty likely it'll happen at one point in this season, you're then back to a situation where you're having to play Russell Martin at centre-back, and it all goes a bit dodgy again. So I think, although the defence is looking a lot more solid at the moment, we can't sort of rest on our laurels, and we do need to go out there and sign a top-class centre-back or a right-back, whatever that may be. But Seb, another point that Charlie raised there was Andre Wisdom. A very, very impressive performance from him, wasn't it?
Certainly, and I think this little run of games that he's had in the team, he's really benefiting from. I think he's starting to look a lot more solid, and alongside Ryan Bennett, the two are really starting to make something of a partnership, more so than we saw with Russell Martin and Whittaker. Between them, they look relatively solid and have done, against Chelsea and Arsenal now, which are two of the, I'm not sure what you say about Chelsea, but the players that they've been coming up against aren't your Alan Huttons or whoever. They've been doing really well, and as you say, Wisdom also, we don't always think it's part of his game. He also offered that brilliant cross in for Houlihan, so he did offer something going forward, which is another plus point. Yeah,
he was definitely better going forward. He's looked pretty solid defensively ever since the sort of Southampton game where he was a bit on and off, but ever since then he has looked pretty solid defensively, but going forwards and then getting back from that sort of offensive position, he's looked a bit shaky, but against Arsenal it was absolutely fantastic. And I think that movement from going forwards to coming back was probably the best I've seen this season, Charlie. Did you think that we really struck the balance right of going forwards and dropping off as well?
I think we did. I think you even go back to last week. Was it Jerome started at the Stamford Bridge?
No. Was it?
It's Mbakani.
Mbakani started at Stamford Bridge.
Right, and then the week before then, I think might have been Jerome. But no one was really tracking back. And I remember a point I made to my dad because he asked, why is Grabban starting? I think Grabban actually comes back to the ball because he's not the guy that's going to win it for you up top.
Yeah.
He checks back a little bit more. He did the same thing at Anfield, actually, when he finally made his first appearance.
Very true.
Yeah. So I think him tracking back kind of allowed us to go forward. Now, when we went forward, we didn't really move. But I think the best part about when we talk about the defense and moving forward is the fact that the midfield has been so compact and consistent. It doesn't matter if we've had Malumbu, Alex Tete, Gary O'Neill, even Johnny Howson, although he's kind of been playing wider recently, and then Graham Dorrans. Those guys in the middle, you could argue that our defense the last 3 games or 4 games has been the best it's been, but that's because we haven't been going forward. So it's kind of like a give and take kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think it was also, loads of players had their best performances of the season, but Johnny Howson especially was fantastic at the weekend. I've been a bit critical of him in the past because I don't think he's that great out on the right, mainly because he lacks a lot of pace, but in these bigger games where you need to defend a bit more, he does bring value to the team, and he put in a massive, massive shift on Sunday. Seb, I'm going to bring it back to the Lewis Grabban point. Obviously, 99% of Norwich were surprised to see him starting on Sunday, but he did score a very nice finish. What did you make of his performance, and I suppose would you like to see him start against Watford now?
I thought he took his goal very well. He did really well to hold off Gabriel, I think it was, and then finish it as adeptly as he did. But I'm not sure even though I don't want to write him off, and I think we need to, as Daniel Brigham said in his recent piece for the Little Yellow Bird Project, we do need to sort of forget the whole Rotherham saga. He has had his fine. He's been dropped in the team. I think Alex Neil, as Daniel says, dealt with the situation really well. So we need to put a lid on that. That's gone now. But ability-wise, I'm still not convinced. I think Daniel Brigham goes into the fact that Lewis Grabban's touch is something that sets him aside from our other options. I'm not totally in agreement with that. I think although he has, decent technical ability, I'm not sure his other parts of the game actually warrant him to be in the team. I think there's a bit of a preconception that he has loads of pace, which I don't think he has any more so than Cameron Jerome, and he also doesn't have the physicality of either him or Mbakani. But having said that, of course, he did take his goal very well, and that made a lot of Norwich fans eat their words prior to the match, of course. Do I want him to start? I can't say he shouldn't start, having, he has scored the crucial goal in the match. But I would say that had he not scored that goal, and I do think that opportunity was a golden one, handed to him by the excellence of Robbie Brady. Lewis Grabban didn't have another shot all game, so he didn't get another opportunity. He didn't carve himself one out. I don't think he's a player who can do that. I think he is partly reliant on our midfield, and if we don't have our creative players like Houlihan and Brady, playing at their best, then I don't think he's going to really offer that much. Is there a problem with his attitude? Of course, he doesn't celebrate his goals. He sort of mopes about, looking like he doesn't, he's not that interested. Whether that's just his style and, that's not actually related to how much he tries, I don't know. But I'm not convinced that he's our best option by any means.
I think I'm a bit sort of on the fence with Lewis Grabban. I think his ability is unquestionable in a sense of championship level. I think he proved that. The thing I question with Lewis Grabban is what...
I'd still question that, actually.
Really? I think
he did very well at Bournemouth. He had, I think it was 22 goals in 44 games. Did really well there. And he started like a house on fire with Norwich. But if you think about some of his goals that he scored, he scored 12 in 37 appearances, I believe. Some of the goals that he did score were a bit lucky.
The Ipswich goal, that 2-0 match where he literally tapped it.
Yeah, you got the one at Blackpool where it was a deflection.
End of the day, though, they're still goals. They're still, Cameron Jerome scored tap-ins.
I know, but I just don't think you're going to get that sort of look in the Premier League. And, if we're not getting that look, then he might look a bit out of his depth. I'm jumping to conclusions here. I just don't think... And I'm not trying to take away anything from his performance the weekend. He did score the goal, as Alex Neil, backed him to do so.
I completely agree. I think if his... I think his goal at Arsenal was superb. Watching it back, I appreciate that finish even more. The way he held the ball from Gabriel, the way he got it out of his feet, and a quick finish past Petr Cech was fantastic. But his consistency worries me. I look back at the start of the season when he played Crystal Palace. He was dreadful in that game. He missed a couple of...
He missed an open goal.
He should have scored a couple that game. I think if he was a top-class striker, he would have bagged the goals there. He wouldn't have tried to force a move away, and he would have probably been playing week in, week out for Norwich. I think, yes... I'm not going to have a go at him for not celebrating goals, but Seb, I think you're correct in saying his style is very odd. He's like the cool kid at college who doesn't want to try too hard playing football because his mates might find it funny, and then when he does score, he's like, who cares about that? That kind of attitude, I'm not too sure about. He's always had that, whatever team he's been at. That I think Grabban is on par with Cameron Jerome in terms of what he can bring to the team. Obviously, they're completely different players and needed in different circumstances. But when I look at Mbakani compared to Grabban, Jerome and Lafferty, I just think Mbakani is such a class above them. He's got presence, he's got pace, he knows what he's doing, he can drop off, his movement is so much better. I think if we had a choice between Grabban, Jerome and Lafferty, I'd probably go with Grabban. But with Diamersi and Mbakani in the side, who's played European football and scored goals in a lot of European top flights, I look at Mbakani and go, actually, hang on, this guy knows what he's doing and he's already been performing for Norwich City. I'm not sure. Let us know what you...
Well, I don't mind actually Grabban. Like we mentioned, I mean, everything that he's got going against him. But obviously, I think part of this is because I'm so far away. You know, the fact that his off-the-field related stuff doesn't really... It's not applicable to me. But I think Grabban, like I said, he comes back to the ball, which is appreciated. But I think you set it up with Alex Neil where whoever we're playing, he matches it well. I think against Arsenal, if we scored, he was kind of expecting a snatch and grab. I think that's something that, let's be honest, most of our guys haven't been able to finish in front of goal. So the fact that Grabban can be clinical under that stress, because, I mean, I think he's aware that if he does not do well, the crowd is going to be against him.
Well, there's a point that I think some of the fans were actually booing him after about 30 minutes.
I mean, that's pathetic, that is.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I thought, honestly, when I watch Cameron Jerome play, Cameron Jerome doesn't make all that many runs that I notice where I'm just like, wow, that guy separates himself. So I think going into Watford, if you do start somebody, I wouldn't mind Grabban if it means someone like Mbakani can come off the bench and finish out the match. But I would rather have that than, say, Mbakani start and then Grabban come on. Because I think Mbakani makes more of an impact in a match, whereas if Grabban is lined up with Wes Hoolahan or someone who can feed him the ball, if we have guys taking long shots or like Brady gets it in, or Wisdom for that matter, if someone can tap it, I think... Well, we know Mbakani can do it, but Grabban seems like I don't want to say he's in form because it's one match, but I wouldn't be upset. I wouldn't be upset if if he starts Saturday against Watford, I won't be disappointed. At the end of the day, whoever scores, I think that's all that really matters.
Well, what was interesting was that, someone told me about Grabban and the fact that he's probably going to be starting, and I think I told both of you this prior to the game. But, I didn't think there was going to be much in it. I thought it was just one of those rumours that comes and goes and there's actually nothing in it. But the actual rumour itself, although, disregard this if you think it's absolute bullshit. But I think the rumour came from someone picking Mbakani up at the ground. And then Mbakani told this person who was driving him somewhere that Grabban was starting. But not only that Grabban was starting, that he was laughing at Alex Neil's decision to start Grabban, and that apparently there'd been some sort of altercation, I don't know, and that Mbakani had sworn at Grabban in French or something.
Okay.
I mean, it sounds like your usual not very true, but after, the Grabban coming in starting being true, perhaps there's a minority of truth in it. And then we see Mbakani not getting a chance at all to come off the bench. It was Jerome who was chosen. So possibly there's a small amount of weight to it. But don't believe it. Just, bear it in mind in case it develops.
Can we get Tony Andrew in there, Andreu in there, please, for translations? We'll get him on the pod.
That's the only thing he'd be good for, I think. No, but I think to conclude that, I think... Admittedly, we haven't got the most talented strike force, but something we do have is a versatile strike force. I think that's the reason Norwich never really have a striker who scores like tons and tons of goals in a season. I think obviously the last striker that would apply to was Grant Holt, who did score loads of goals on a consistent basis. But because we're chopping and changing so much, because Alex Neil is so wary of setting his team up for the opposition rather than for himself. I think that's the reason why you're never going to see a striker under Alex Neil score 30, 35 goals in a season that maybe he would have done under Paul Lambert and stuff. So, yeah, good stuff. If you're listening to the podcast and want to say, you can tweet us to any of our Twitter handles. The links to them will be in the YouTube video and also in the iTunes description. Also, while I'm talking about that, if you haven't already subscribed to our iTunes account, if you do that, as soon as we upload this onto SoundCloud, it will come straight into your podcast app. So that's really cool. Anyway, let's get into some quick fire player ratings. I'm going to put this over to Seb because I haven't got the team sheet up just yet, and I'm hoping he has.
I haven't, but I'm going to go off memory.
Okay.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Ruddy 5, Wisdom 7, Bennett 7, Basong 7, Olsen 6, Brady 9, O'Neill 6, Malumbu. It was Malumbu, yeah. 7, Howson 7, Houlihan 6. I'm going to say I don't think he had too much of an influence, and finally Grabban 7. I don't think I've missed.
No, that was impressive off memory. Anyway, Charlie, let's go to you next for your quickfire player ratings.
All right, Ruddy 7, Wisdom 8, Bennett 7, Basong 7, Olsen 7, O'Neill, we'll say 7 because the yellow, Doran 7, Brady 8, Howson 7, Houlihan 6, Grabban 7, Redmond 6, Jerome 6, almost not applicable, and then Vadis. I'll give him an 8. Vadis came on and actually made an impact.
He was decent, actually.
I thought he was going to score at the end, actually.
Yeah, so I'll give it. Oh, with the block shot, I think it was. Yeah, so I'll give him a shout.
The only problem with Vadis coming on is that I try and get his chant started, lose my voice, and then nobody else joins in.
Yeah, I did actually see that bit in your video where you started singing it. Chris gave you like the first line, and then you sang on your own.
I do that for the majority. I reckon I'm hated in the Lower Berkeley. So anyone in the Lower Berkeley, I apologise for my terrible chants. Anyway, let's get into these player ratings. Ruddy 5, Wisdom 7, Bennett 8, solely for the push on Sanchez. Basong 7, Olsen 8, Howson 8, Doran 7, O'Neill 7, Brady 9, Houlihan 6, Grabban 7, Jerome 5, Redmond 6, Adija, Afoe 7.
Lovely.
Anyway, we put out a random question of the week, as always. This week's question was, as Lewis Grabban doesn't celebrate his goals, is there anything in life that he celebrates? We've got a fairly one-dimensional answer here, and I'm sure you guys know what it is already. Lots and lots of people saying he probably celebrated catching a train from Rotherham. Would probably celebrate a move to Bournemouth. Yeah, probably nothing wrong there. Lloyd Alexander saying he might celebrate Christmas Day. Who knows? He might do.
Isn't he Muslim?
Is he?
Okay, that's taken a bad twist.
Well, actually, if he's not, then it's equally as incorrect. I'm not sure.
Who knows?
We'll
he might celebrate Christmas. He might not. Maybe that was Lloyd's point, that he doesn't. I don't know.
I don't think Lloyd knows either.
Moving on.
Let's not try and get religion involved into this. Once again, Harry Green wins the random podcast question of the week. Harry, you can send the money through PayPal if you want for picking you as winner again. He's definitely one of those people who claps at the end of a movie or when the plane lands safely. I can imagine Grabban sitting at the back of the plane clapping when his Ryanair flight comes into Norwich Airport. Yeah, guys, have you got any thoughts of times Lewis Grabban might celebrate in his day-to-day life?
You know, I was listening to his post-match interview, and I just thought his voice is almost identical to like comedian Ramesh Raghunathan.
Oh yeah,
It's practically the same voice.
I'd tell you a situation I'd celebrate with Lewis Grabban is when he shaves that horrific beard off. What even is that?
Yeah.
Well,
It's
I was going to say that, but if it applies to a religious thing, then there's nothing on it. But if this is his like, generic style, if this is like what he thinks, does he get the ladies? Is he already married? I don't know his relationship status. We're digging deep into his psychological life here.
The only thing is, it doesn't look very sort of well kept. If the style is related to his religion, that's cool. But it's a bit scraggy, isn't it?
And,
he needs some treatment on that.
He just needs a good, pair of clippers, doesn't he?
It looks like he's just shaved his pubic hair and just stuck it to his face. It's just woeful. Everyone was thinking it. Sorry, Lewis, if you're listening, but your beard is bloody horrendous, mate. If you want an example of a beard, watch the fan cams. Andy's grown out a lovely beard. A bit of beard appreciation there. I was lucky enough to catch up with Arsenal Fan TV's Mo, and he admitted to having a soft spot for Norwich City. Talk Norwich City, joined with Mo. I watch this guy every week. He speaks the truth, mate.
Thank you very much.
Speak some truth about today.
Well, look, I'll tell all of your viewers something. I actually lived in Norwich for 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to work for Aviva, lived here, spent some time here. Really like the city, and I've got a soft spot for the football team as well. I attended a few Norwich games whilst I was here, and I love seeing you lot do well. Admire the fact that, you know, when you've dropped down from the top league in football, you've maintained such a loyal fan base. And, you know, I've got a lot of time for this club, especially what you've done in terms of you had a huge debt and you've worked your way out of it. You know, it goes unnoticed because Norwich aren't, you know, sorry to say it, but the biggest team. You know, it goes very, very unnoticed. But you've done great work at this club, so I've always had a soft spot. But putting all of that sentiment aside today, you know, I'm really, really disappointed in my club today because, you know, I feel like if Norwich fans were to watch Arsenal every single week for the whole of the season, you lot will probably look back on this game and be like, that was one of their worst 3 performances all season. We lose games playing better than we drew this game today, and we're lucky to have drawn it. So, you know, if I was a Norwich fan, I'd be very disappointed not to have got a big scalp today. I don't know what was wrong with us.
When you were 1-0 up after like 30 minutes, absolutely, you know, obliterating us really, were you thinking, let's kick on, let's get another few, or were you always thinking, Norwich, you got a chance to get back in this?
No, I actually don't think we were obliterating you after 30 minutes. Yeah, I think after 25 minutes, I was looking at the game and I was thinking it's quite a dead game. We're not battering the door down. You know, when you truly know what Arsenal are capable of, that wasn't it. I don't think at any point in the game we got out of third gear. We weren't battering your door down. John Roddy wasn't making amazing saves. I think you cleared one off the line. Other than that, I don't think it was that bad. You know, I can remember you having better chances than us, to be honest with you. So after 25 minutes, I thought it was a bit of a neutral, sort of empty game. Then we went and got the goal. That was really your bad work rather than our good work. And then I thought to myself, now's the time for Arsenal to push on, and we just didn't do it. And, you know, it's an old cliche in football, but the timing of your goal was so important just before half-time. And, you know, it really took the wind out of our sails. And then just before half-time you score, just after half-time Alexis gets injured. And I think in the space of those 5 minutes, which was actually in real time 20 minutes, but in the space of the footballing 5 minutes, those 2 moments completely changed the game for us.
So that was Mo off Arsenal Fan TV. I really like Mo. Lots of Arsenal fans absolutely despise him, but I think he's a really nice guy and one of the only Arsenal fans who actually speaks sense. So yeah, that was Mo from Arsenal Fan TV talking about his love for Norwich City, I guess. So that's cool. Anyway, moving on. Watford up next. Seb, I guess you're going, are you?
I am. Yep. I am.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for 3 points. Really, I think it's a massive game for us, given the run that we've just had of difficult games. We've now got a chance to get 3 points on the board, and that will really help us sort of just keep that little bit of distance. I think we're sort of looking over our shoulder towards the relegation zone, but if we can get 3 points, that'll help keep a little bit of a gap, especially with some important of the win doing so going forward around because of us.
the
month that we've
got
ahead.
Well,
but yeah, I mean the days are getting darker, the leaves are falling off the trees, but it's not too bad.
No, it's not too bad at all. I'm still buzzing off it. Charlie, how are you, mate?
I'm alright, getting along. I forgot what a clean sheet felt like.
In the Championship.
Haven't seen that since Middlesbrough.
Of course, that's a long time ago. What day that was. An important game. I mean, it sounds like I'm being commissioned by the EDP, as John Rogers calls it. I'm honestly not being paid. EDP, if you want to pay me for all these plugs, go ahead. But Paddy Davitt said in there that lots of people were saying that the Arsenal game was season defining, mainly because we got our tactics spot on.
It was a bit dull.
It could be the start of
it didn't look like either team really wanted to have any chances. I know
Watford game
Jerome put the header over the bar, but other than that, there wasn't too much into it. And then
Christmas period
really when
against the team sort of in and around
came into the match, started injecting a bit
we're going to have to switch up the tactics
aggression
again because Charlie, I mean, Watford have started the season probably better than most thought. We've got Igalo there firing on all cylinders. I didn't think he'd make a step up from the Championship, but it's evident he has. It's been a while. You've obviously got the ever-present Troy Deeney and a fairly solid midfield and defence. So, I guess, how do you see Alex Neil approaching this one?
I think the main reason that people were a bit down was because they saw Alex Neil's substitution of Mbakani coming on for Jerome as a negative one. But what did you make of that substitution?
Bringing someone
well, I think his hand was partly forced by the fact we didn't have the attacking options of Redmond or Jarvis.
And
the defensive solidity that we'd seen in that first half, although it wasn't pretty, we weren't very attractive coming forward, and it was very Houghton-esque in many ways, but at least we had that solidity. I don't think he wanted to meddle with that too much and change too much. And in the end, we managed to keep that solidity and then, just about get a goal from a corner. And I think it's there's a sense that Alex Neil is sort of learning from his experience in the Premier League. We saw against Newcastle how he was a bit naive to take off Tete even on Houlihan, and then we ultimately lost 6-2. And in the same way that we've been losing games, we've been deserving to win or get points from, and so far it's not been going too well. This Saturday against Swansea, we overcame that and we got the 3 points. Even though we only had 32% possession, it's all about the points. He delivered a game plan that got those points, and therefore, in my opinion, it's a job well done.
Villa look, definitely,
pretty much down and out. I think Sunderland will stay up, although they do look woeful, but they always just seem to pull off some kind of relegation survival every single year. I think Newcastle are looking very, very dodgy, and then you've got Bournemouth who are being fairly unlucky, but I really don't care because they're Bournemouth.
Continuously, that's certainly a pleasing thing.
So yeah, I guess with all of that said,
if you look at the team, you can tell it
score
evolves.
predictions.
While the players might not necessarily
2-1 Norwich,
like against City, for example,
feeling
that's a
good,
match that
straight to the point. Love
fans
it.
are upset with, come away with a loss. But then you see that he adds new
one. I think
players.
there's going to be goals in this, obviously. I'm going 4-2 Norwich. Goal.
Looks like
I think
he brings
Grabban
in
might get on the
O'Neal,
score sheet again and silence his haters for another
and it
week.
worked out just fine. So
haters
the
are his
evolution of the
motivators.
squad. But
So
one of the things I noticed is the positioning of the guys. It's not just like the guys are wandering around. I watched Newcastle Bournemouth
That's my inspiration
right before the match, and it's funny because
so yeah,
Newcastle
4-2
was
I'm
just
going for
wandering
a
around.
convincing win, and we'll be back on this podcast
you
next
can tell if they were trying to play
Monday
3 up
or
top,
Tuesday
5
or
in the
Wednesday,
back.
talking about how good we were.
Would go forward like
Anyway,
David
thanks
Luiz.
to everyone who
And then you got
listened,
Norwich,
whether that be on iTunes
structured.
or
This is
YouTube.
exactly how it's going to be.
Both
And if you
good
look
enough,
at
I guess.
Premier League
Leave us your
survival
thoughts. You could tweet
that
us
match with
at
only, you said, 32%
Ward
possession?
__ Ward, something like that.
You see that.
Yeah,
and,
that's right, but yeah.
I mean, if you watch the match as
Seb,
a neutral, you might
what
say,
is it? I tweet it like every day.
Sat back
Seb,
and
I knew
knows
there was an
exactly
underscore,
what
and it's
they wanted
Charlie
to do. So
Hatch
that evolution
_ No.
Has been nice. And when
Yes.
we play Chelsea, I'm sure
Got it.
something else will come
Lots
out
of
that
underscores.
Alex Neil's brought up.
So yeah, tweet us all of that good stuff, and we will see you next week for another episode.